According to Greek mythology, the roots of heroism trace back to one tormented wandering princess. I'm Nikos, speaking to you from Greece, and today we go back long before the triumphs of Perseus or the labors of Heracles, when there was a beautiful maiden whose journey would shape the fate of the world. This is the story of Io. Long ago, in ages past, there stood a magnificent city named Argos. Believed by many to be the first city of the New World, it was founded by the river god Inachus, who became its first king shortly after a great flood had nearly wiped out all life on Earth. Not long after, the great king and his wife, the Oceanid nymph Melia, brought forth a daughter, destined to change the course of the world. Her name was Io. Years passed, and the princess blossomed into a young woman of remarkable beauty. She spent her days serving as a priestess in the temple of Hera, or aiding her parents in the rule of Argos. But her radiance did not go unnoticed. Inevitably, her beauty caught the eye of Zeus, the king of the gods, who was utterly enthralled by the mortal princess. At first, Zeus appeared to Io only in dreams, haunting her sleep in the guise of a handsome man. Then the great god descended to Argos to claim her. But before he approached the maiden, he shrouded the entire city in a veil of dark clouds, hoping to hide his actions from his formidable queen. Zeus's plan worked, but only halfway. He succeeded in laying with the beautiful Io, but high upon Mount Olympus, Hera was not deceived. The queen of the gods noticed the unnatural black cloud swirling over the city of Argos and instantly knew her husband was up to no good. Furious, the goddess immediately descended from Olympus, set on uncovering the truth. When Zeus saw his wife approaching, he acted faster than thought. To conceal his misdeed, he used his divine power to transform Io into a cow. Then, casting off his mortal disguise, he returned to his godly form, standing tall and composed, ready to face Hera's wrath. The queen arrived and, sensing her husband's deception, asked him about the cow. Zeus replied that this marvelous creature had just sprung from the earth, and he was merely admiring the miracle, for it was something even he had never witnessed before. But Hera saw through the lies of her husband. "It truly is a magnificent creature," she said. "You don't mind if I take it, do you?" Zeus was left with no choice. He surrendered Io to his wife, her fate now bound to Hera's burning jealousy. The queen of the gods led the transformed princess away and summoned her most loyal guardian, the mighty Argus Panoptes. She commanded him to chain Io to an olive tree and watch over her for all eternity. Argus Panoptes was a formidable giant renowned for his strength. He had once slain Echidna, the mother of monsters, in service to the gods. His body was covered with 100 eyes, and never did they sleep all at once. He was the perfect warden. Days passed, and poor Io, trapped in more ways than one, lived under the constant gaze of Argos, unable to speak or even weep to ease her suffering. Her family mourned, unaware that the cow in the fields was their beloved daughter. But Zeus watched from afar, his heart heavy with guilt for the torment he had brought upon her. At last he summoned Hermes, the swift messenger god, and gave him a solemn command: to slay the guardian and restore Io's freedom. And so Hermes set his plan into motion. Disguised as a humble shepherd, he approached Argos, whose 100 eyes scanned every corner of the horizon. Taking out his flute, Hermes began to play a melody so enchanting that he immediately caught the giant's attention. Mesmerized, Argus asked about the strange and beautiful instrument. With calm precision, Hermes continued to play as he spun the tale of Pan and the nymph Syrinx, how the wild god had pursued her, and how, in desperation, she was transformed into reeds, from which Pan fashioned his flute. The haunting melody paired with a soothing story slowly lulled the vigilant giant into slumber. For the first time in his existence, all of his eyes closed. Seizing the moment, Hermes drew his blade and, summoning his divine strength, ended the life of Argus Panoptes in a single stroke. Io, the cow who had been a beautiful princess, was finally freed. But her torment was far from over. The queen of the gods mourned the unjust fate of her loyal servant. To honor him for all eternity, she plucked each of his 100 eyes and placed them upon the tail of her loyal peacock, so that Argus might once again gaze upon the wonders of the world. But her grief quickly turned to fury. The cow had stolen both her pride and the life of her cherished guardian, and for that, Hera's vengeance would be terrible. In her wrath, she unleashed the divine Gadfly, small yet relentless, to torment Io without mercy. Day and night the creature stung her flesh, driving the helpless maiden to run across the face of the world, with no rest and no peace. Io fled from Argos, her path stretching across the vast lands of Europe and Asia. She swam across the Ionian Sea, a sea that would forever bear her name. Her desperate journey took her through Dodona, Illyria, Thrace, Scythia, and Cimmeria, until she finally reached the distant shores of the Black Sea. She crossed the narrow strait that would forever be known as the Bosporus, or the Cow's Crossing, and continued into Asia. Yet nowhere could the tormented princess find peace. No place brought her salvation. Her wanderings eventually led her to the remote and desolate peaks of the Caucasus Mountains. And it was there that she had one of her most unexpected encounters. The Titan Prometheus, chained in eternal torment for defying Zeus and gifted the sacred fire to mankind. The Titan, gifted with the power of foresight, spoke to Io, offering her much-needed comfort and guidance.
"You are Io, daughter of Heracles, are you not? The maiden Zeus fell in love with. And now, because of Hera's wrath, you are cursed to wander the earth without rest. I know your pain, child, but do not lose hope, for I have seen how your journey ends. Continue southward, though know that many wonders and dangers lie ahead. You will pass through the lands of the Amazons, fierce warrior women who despise all men. They will help guide you. Your path will take you near the realms of the dreadful snake-haired Gorgons, whose gaze turns flesh to stone, and the deadly griffins, with wings sharp as blades and beaks like spears. Beware them. Finally, you will reach a great and sacred river, the Nile. There awaits your salvation, and in time your children will rise to glory. And know this, from your bloodline will come a brave young man, a hero, who will one day free even me from my torment. Endure, child, endure." And so Io pressed onward, enduring for years the pains caused by the monstrous Gadfly. Guided by the words of the wise Titan, she wandered without rest, until at long last she reached the distant land of Egypt. High on Olympus, Zeus could no longer bear the suffering he had brought upon his lover. With a heavy heart, he turned to Hera and begged for forgiveness. He vowed never to pursue Io again, if only the queen would lift her cruel curse. Moved, or perhaps satisfied with Io's agony, Hera at last relented. The Gadfly vanished. Zeus descended once more to the mortal world. At the banks of the Nile, he found the exhausted cow, and with a gentle touch of divine power, he restored her to her true form. Io was finally free, and some would say she was more magnificent than ever. In the years that followed, Io's fate proved truly marvelous. The Egyptians, having witnessed her divine transformation, began to worship the young woman as a goddess, naming her Isis. She married Telegonos, the king of Egypt, and ruled beside him for many years. And through her, a bloodline was born that would shape the very fabric of Greek mythology.
From her union with Zeus she bore 2 children, Epaphus and Heroessa. Epaphus would go on to found the city of Memphis, naming it in honor of his wife, and he too would be worshipped as a god, known as Apis. Heroessa was loved by Poseidon and gave birth to Visas, the legendary founder of Byzantium, the city that would one day become Constantinople. Generations later, Eos' descendants returned to Greece, founding the royal houses of Argos and Thebes. Heroes such as Perseus and even the god Dionysus would trace their lineage back to her. And 11 generations after her tale, Heracles was born, the greatest hero ever to walk the earth. It was he who would fulfill Prometheus' prophecy, breaking the Titan's chains and finally ending his torment. Prometheus had been right. The girl who became a cow, who fled from Argos to Egypt, would indeed become the ancestress of heroes. Her suffering had not been in vain. It became the seed of salvation. If you made it this far, I just want to say thank you. It means the world to me to share with you the myths and stories of my homeland. If there's one thing to take from today's tale, let it be this. No matter how great the wound, if we keep moving, our road can still lead us to wonders. And if you enjoyed this video, please stay tuned for the next episode of the Greek Mythology. Until next time, take care.